Hello and welcome to the very first edition of the iTutor Math Show. I'm your host, Rebel Math Coach Bobby Ozuna. Today is January 3rd, 2019, and we are officially live.
One day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today.
Hello and welcome to the very first edition of the iTutor Math Show. I'm your host, Rebel Math Coach Bobby Ozuna. This is the first of a four-part series that should strike a nerve and touch the heart of many people. This is a show that is designed to help families build an environment of learning at home. So if you're a family that has struggled with mathematics, or you have a student that's struggling with mathematics specifically to the state standardized test in Texas, this is the show you're going to want to subscribe to. This is the show you're going to want to watch. This is the show that you're going to want to share if you know other families that are struggling as well. This is the first of a four-part series. And I'm going to focus primarily on the state of Texas's standardized test called the STAAR. But if you're outside of the state of Texas, number one, I'd like you to comment, leave me a message, and tell me where you're at. I have a collection of students that are high school students working towards getting their community service hours for their college application, and they've been dubbed as social media analysts, SMAs, and their job is to kind of scour through the internet and read through comments to let me know how we are doing and let me know what people are asking, because the fourth episode in this series is basically going to be a Q&A. So I'd like to go ahead and just show you what the series is going to be about. Let me cut over real quick. So again, the four-part series is called the Shooting STAAR series, how to help your child master the Math STAAR test at home. Again, you don't have to necessarily be in Texas for this material to matter. My area expertise is the STAAR test in Texas, but a lot of the tips and the tricks and the tactics that I'm going to be showing people are pertinent to anyone who has a standardized test. So again, if you're outside of the state of Texas and you're saying to yourself, hey, help us, we're in Kentucky or we're in Hawaii or we're in California, I'd like you to post a comment and let me know where you're at so I can get my people on it so we can formulate the information that you need that's going to help you as well. But overall, the gist of what we're doing on this particular series of how to help your child at home, specifically to the parents. So if you're a parent that says, I don't know what to do, we don't know where to go to get the help, I don't know what to do, I'm not very good at math myself, I wasn't a good math teacher. I hear a lot of these things like that from parents all the time, where they say, well, I wasn't a good math student, so how am I going to help my child? You're going to want to stay tuned for the show because I'm going to walk you through this, okay? So again, this is the first of a four-part series. Episode 1 is tonight, and it's basically a STAAR overview, and we're going to download the test. So just so you know, no, we are not going to hack into anybody's server to steal these tests. The state of Texas makes the downloadable test, makes the test readily available. So former tests that they've administered, they're available for download. We're going to do that as step 1 tonight. Episode 2, which is next week, we're going to administer and grade the exam. Really, really simple. Next week will be really short. I'm just going to show you how to take that, download it, and hopefully print it test. You're going to administer that test to your student, and then you're going to grade the test. That leads us into the meat of the series, which is episode 3, which is building the study plan. That's the most important piece, because it's one thing to say, okay, I administered the test, we downloaded it, I gave them the test, I graded it, they missed X amount of problems, but I don't know what to do now. So in episode 3, which is 2 weeks from now, I'm going to show you how you're going to build a study plan. So if you live in the state of Texas, you already know the STAAR test is right around the corner. Every spring, the anxiety goes up. People get afraid. People who failed the test. There's so much fear and angst and emotion that comes out of this STAAR test. And if you know other parents, then you already know that so many emotions come from this whole concept of having to take a standardized test. So it's my hope that over the course of this show in the next 3 or 4 weeks, I'm going to walk you through, kind of ease some of that burden, slow down, your emotions a little bit to kind of get you mentally ready to approach how you can help your child, even if you don't have super strong math skills. Episode 4, which will be 3 weeks from now, is basically going to be a recap. So again, you got questions, you have comments, Q&A, you want to know, hey, I've got some questions, or what about a special circumstance with my child, then I want to hear from you. I want to hear it. So we're going to start with today. So what is the STAAR? We're going to go STAAR overview. So what is the STAAR test? The STAAR test is essentially the state of Texas standardized test. It officially stands for the State of Texas Assessments of Academic Readiness. What does that mean? It's a test used to basically evaluate a student's achievements and the knowledge of a particular course by grade. It is a time test. I know a lot of people don't like that, but I'm going to tell you, I'm a former Marine. I have family and friends that are in the police department. I have family that were in the fire department. I'm telling you right now, most of the tests to quantify getting into college, getting into the police academy, getting into the fire academy, getting into college. If you're local to the state of Texas, you do something called the TSI. These are time tests, so it's not a bad thing that your child has to take a time test. It's actually a good thing because it's preparing them for the reality of adulthood. I work in the information technology field, and there's lots of certification exams that you can take. Those are time tests also. So I don't want you to put a lot of emphasis on the timing of it. If you practice well with your student at home, they're going to be prepared ahead of time, so then the time itself to take the test won't necessarily be a problem. That goes into the next bullet point. It is a time test. Again, as I said, so if you have a child in 3rd through 5th grade, that's a 2-hour time box. If you have a child in 6th through 8th grade, that is a 3-hour time box. If your child is in high school and they take what's called the end of course work, it's still the STAAR exam. It's exit level work that they must pass. I think there's 12 total in the state of Texas, and that's like science and history and language arts or English. But math specifically, which is my area of expertise, there's an Algebra 1, Algebra 2, and a Geometry STAAR. These are the exit level courses. And for high school students, these are the must pass. These validate all of your work. So if you're a high school student listening, this basically validates that all the time that you've been sitting in class from kindergarten to 11th grade, listening to teachers talk and doing homework, this is your chance to shine and say, look at what I've learned. I know what I need to go out to the next level of academic success. So we're going to talk next about passing scores. Let's talk real quick about passing scores, because this is a big deal, pass or no pass. I get this all the time with parents. What happens if my child doesn't pass? The first thing I want to tell you is something that I always tell parents when I meet them. And I say it in a way that I'm hoping it's kind of shocking. I want it to be a little bit shocking to where parents are like, oh my God, I didn't realize the simplicity of the STAAR test. So think about this for a second. How many times, and you can comment if you want to, but how many times have you heard a parent say, oh, the school failed, or the majority of my child's school failed the STAAR test, math specifically, or X amount of students failed the STAAR test, or I hear a lot of kids fail the STAAR test. So I want to ask you, just if you had to guess yourself, if you didn't know, what do you think the passing score is for the STAAR test? Think about that for a second. So if you didn't know and you had to pick a number, and most of us are going to pick the same number, which usually starts with a 7 and ends in a 0, what do you think the passing score is for the STAAR test? So if you've got an idea, you think you want to take a shot at it, post a comment, let me know. But essentially, it's not even 70%. This is the part that I'm hoping is a little shocking to you. To pass the STAAR test, you pretty much need to get 62% falls under the category of meeting the criteria. So as an example, if there's 54 questions on a test, you've got to get 34 right out of 54. 34 out of 54. Think about that. That means if your child takes the STAAR test and they take the math test and there's 54 questions, they get to legally miss 20 of those questions, 20 out of 54, and still walk away under the category known as meets. That's a 62%. Now, your child could score as low as a 39%. That means they get 21 right out of 54. That means they missed more than they got right and still fall under the category called approaches and pass the test. So think about that for a second. Let that sit in. When you hear the numbers and the emotion, the anxiety, the fear, and the outrage that people have, parents have, even school people, about the overall emotion related to the state standardized test and passing or not passing, think about those numbers. These aren't 70 percentile requirements. These are 39, as low as 39% to 62% to meet the requirement to go on to the next level. That's pretty significant. Now that says lots of things that I'm not even going to even touch tonight, because I can go on for a long time about that, but I'm not. I'm going to wrap this up pretty fast. Tonight, this is really simple. So essentially, high level overview. It's a state standardized test. It's a requirement. Get used to it. It's better to be in the mindset that says, hey, I should do it and be done. It is a time test. We're going to cover that. You're going to prepare your child for that test next week. Pass, no pass, it depends. I know that 5th grade, 8th grade in the course, there's these requirements. We'll talk about that a little bit more next week, which leads us into the main topic of tonight's show, is downloading the test. So I'm going to show you real fast how to go over and download the tests. So this is pretty simple stuff right here. So I'm just going to go out to the internet. If you're watching, don't take notes. If you're watching the show live on YouTube, you don't have to take down any notes or do what I do. I always tell my students when I'm teaching them, it's better to watch the first time and listen. You'll get more information than if you try to take notes like a stenographer at the same time. So really simple. I'm going out to Google. I'm going to do a search for STAAR Released Test Math. I just did a general search. I'm doing a search for STAAR Release Test. You saw what I typed. Something really simple. First thing that comes up is the TEA. I pull up that website, and it's going to take you to the list of available release tests. Check this out. So if you've got a child that's in school, there you go, 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th, all the way to the end of course material for high school. So we're going to take as an example, let's look at high school, algebra. So if I have a student in 9th grade, maybe they're 10th grade, but they're taking Algebra 1, they got to take the STAAR test this year. You can go ahead and click on the download. It will download the test. That's the release test from last year. So that is the test they took in 2018, and you can see there's 6 other tests to choose from. The second column is the answer key. So you're going to want to download the test and download the corresponding answer key. My recommendation is find a FedEx, Kinko's. If you have a printer at home, or borrow a neighbor, print the test out for next week. So step number 1, all you have to do this week to start preparing your child to be successful this year, download a couple of these tests, print out the answer keys, and then put them away. And then you can walk around feeling very confident that, hey, I did step number 1 to help my child be successful this year. I downloaded the tests. That's pretty much it. That's it. High level, that's all we're doing this week. I want you to go out and I want you to download those tests. Again, if you're in another state, tell me where you're at. I'm going to get my students that are sitting around. They're very, very anxious to do more work. I'm going to get them to do some research and find some information for you. If you're in another state and you know that they have release tests available in your state, post that in the comments also. It might help someone else in your state. So outside of that, I'd like to leave you with a couple final thoughts. Again, the point of this show is to help you and your family be successful in this year. So if you're in the state of Texas, I want your child to be successful. I want your family to be successful. If you're a family like the many people I've worked with in the past 15 years that feels like, hey, you know, we failed a few times, it starts wearing on my child, I want to leave you with these final thoughts before we log out tonight. I want you to humor me for a second, though, and close your eyes. If you're driving and listening, I want to tell you that I love you and I appreciate you. Don't close your eyes. But if you're sitting at home, you're sitting with your family, close your eyes for a second. I want you to imagine that you're 17 or 18 years old. And I want you to remember that those days when next week seemed like forever, when the concept of the rest of your life really didn't resonate. Now imagine you've worked for 11, 12 years from kindergarten through 11th or 12th grade. You've done the wake up, be on time, raise your hand, go to class, don't be tardy, get the best grades you can, etc., etc. You've done all the things a parent, teacher, or counselor tells you to do. And now, because you did not pass, or maybe you won't pass one test, the same people who may have asked you and said you could do anything in this world if you set your mind to it are now telling you if you don't pass this one test, you may not even walk the stage to get out of high school. Think about that for a moment. Think about the pressure that puts on someone who for the most part may not be mature enough to understand the bigger picture, because at that age right now in front of you is what matters most. We need to do more of our part as educators and parents to help build success patterns, not overnight achievements, but patterns and habits that help nurture success in everything they do. And for us right now, it's the Math STAAR test or any standardized math test in your state. We do not want this test to define their entire life, or worse, establish an identity of failure for the rest of their life. We will damage them more in this one moment this year than we ever did building them up all the years of their lives getting ready for this moment. This test can define their decision to further their education. If a child feels like I can't pass out of high school, how are they supposed to have the confidence to say I can get through higher level academics? This needs to be positive, exciting moment, not a fire and brimstone, heaven or hell moment for your family. The test is not, nor should it not, define your child, and it should not define your home. It's a test like any other test they will take or face in their life. My job is to walk you through this one step at a time with understanding, encouragement, reality, truth, all wrapped around the serving concept of love. You can do this. We can do this. And I want you to know, if you subscribe and follow the show, we'll do it together. On behalf of my team, my supporters, and the Lord who gave me this gift of passion and fire to serve the world, mathematically and from my heart, I thank you for watching. I thank you for listening. I hope to see you next week. If you feel like the information was pertinent, if you feel like the information is something that could really help other people, I want you to share the information with other people. You can subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. If not, I'll see you next week for episode 2 of the Shooting STAAR, How to Help Your Child Master the STAAR Test at Home. Thank you.